Hi, I'm Italia Oliver, and it's our first soul-to-soul conversation, and I'm so happy to have you with us. Today, our featured guest is Joy Nguyen.
Hi.
She's a good friend of mine, too. And she's also an energy healer and a crystal jewelry designer. Today, we're going to talk specifically, though, about love and first dates. Especially if you're wondering if this guy could be the one. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to kind of share our experiences and also some tips to help you find love. So yeah, let's begin our discussion about these first dates and how they happen and what you should be looking for when you're on the date with that other person, right? Mm-hmm. So what would you say in your experience with dating? Maybe we should start off with perhaps maybe that, because we see it like kind of like a dance that you're doing with another person, this first dance. So what are your thoughts about that in dating?
Oh gosh, dating, first dates especially, just trying to go into it with like the right mindset, how you feel, and then what you tend to do is that your head rushes into all these thoughts about like, well, how should I act? How should I be? What should I say? How much of myself should I share? So you always have all these things, all these conversations inside of your head. And then on top of that, these emotions that kind of guide you or inhibit you from seeing the red flags.
And we're going to talk about those red flags later,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
We're going to be talking about it. And you were saying about, too, with reading the other person, right? There's this reciprocity that kind of happens. Like, for example, like when you're on a date with somebody and they talk and talk and talk.
Yes.
And they don't allow you to talk?
Yes.
I think you might know something about that.
The problem with is sometimes we're so busy with this chatter in our head, sometimes it's nerves. Sometimes you just go, and you talk. But the best thing to do is just like a job interview where you just kind of like pace yourself, take a breath, and then listen. Engage, but listen, really listen to these words and these actions that this other person takes. So what I've noticed in my last and most recent experience is that the person I was with, all they did was just talk. It was just nonstop talking about themselves and their lives and their experiences, their worst date, their best date, their previous engagement, why it broke off, And after 2.5 hours, then they realize it's like, oh, I haven't asked anything about you. So is there reciprocity in that person's engagement and interest in you is the first signal.
Yeah. And what, so are they asking you questions, So they share a little bit and then you share a bit, So is he asking questions? Is he showing interest in your life? And if he's not, probably not a good person to continue dating or seeing. They could be a little bit nervous, but you really want to see if they're actually showing interest in your life, because that's a big indicator. And then also to the point where you were talking about, when they go on and they go on, one of the things too on that first date is you want to be like a character in a novel, right? Like you want to be this unfolding. You don't know everything about the character when you in the first page, in the first chapter, right? It's this unfolding in the story that happens that you get to know somebody, right? I don't want to say you need to be mysterious, but it's good to, just allow a little bit each time, little pieces of you, right? And it doesn't mean that you're putting on a facade, but it means that you are being authentically you, but just, giving a little bit at each time, right? We don't want to start off with every ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, bad trauma thing that ever happened to us, you know?
Yes.
I mean, if it goes there, fine, and you're okay with it, but in general, it's best to like keep it nice and a little bit more neutral and even in that way.
Yes. And then what's the rush? What's the hurry? You know, you want to take the steps. That's the beauty of the process. You know, we all often want to get to the finish line. And in relationships, the same rule applies. A lot of us just wants to get there. It's like, let's get into the relationship.
Yeah, we get ahead of ourselves.
Yes, we get really ahead of ourselves. But that is the beauty, that is the discovery, that is the process of allowing that kind of space and that rhythm and that flow to come at a very natural pace and at a good place, a good place where, you know, you learn to kind of unfold, like Italia said, you know, the little bits and pieces of yourself and of each other. So think of it as like magic unfolding before your eyes.
It is quite magical. And when it's with the right person, totally magical, right? Totally magical when it's with the right person. And that's what you want. You want magic, just like Joy said. You want that magic. So just allow, and also to her point too about, not letting your emotions, right, cloud things, because you might automatically go, oh my God, he's so awesome and all of that. But, you know, sometimes we need to keep ourselves a little bit in check. And we'll talk more about the red flags later, but we do want to keep ourselves in check as well in our emotions, because sometimes if we allow those emotions, it's okay to follow our hearts, right? But if we allow our emotions to kind of cloud what the reality is, and we're creating the fantasy of what we want from somebody and not the reality of who they are, then there's going to be problems.
Yes.
And I bet you know that. I bet you've had your experiences too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And another thing too that we found sometimes too with like dating and first dates and all that is they look great on paper, but dun dun dun.
Yes. And especially with online dating, when you see somebody's profile, first, of course, we go through the physical aspects of it. It's like, let's take a look at the pictures. Does he look like he's 6'2"? Does he have, you know, dark skin, the olive skin, is tall and handsome? And does he have the suit? Does he have, you know, the body that he goes to the gym regularly? So the physical aspects of it, aside from that, you know, when you look at somebody's profile, a lot of times they look so good on paper. You know, you check it all off. You're just like, okay, good income, check. You know, close with family, check. You know, sometimes we have to be a little more discerning and just not take it for face value. For example, you know, a lot of times, think of it like a resume. You know, when we look at our resume, how much is it? How much of it does it really truly reflect the truth? Right? We make it look good. We fluff it up. Right? We want to put our best foot forward, but sometimes there's a lot of exaggeration. It's sort of like just to kind of bait you in, you know, but sometimes when you meet that person face to face, what is on paper doesn't seem to match up in the emotional connection, in the vibrations or the energy that you get from that person. It's almost like they're great on paper, but oh my gosh, they're so different in person.
Yeah. It's kind of like reading a theory like in a book, right? It's like you read the theories and all that, but then when you put it into practice in the real life and experience it, it's like a whole other story.
It is.
And there's a Maya Angelou quote where she says, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And that has come back many times for me, you know, in that idea of people will show you who they are the first time. So it's very important that you're not, I don't want to say that you're looking for red flags, but you really are kind of looking for things in a sense of just that in place, but you're coming from a place of intuition and wisdom and using your experience too. Like my husband Andy on our first date, when he showed up, well, actually, I was the one that was running late, and he texted me. Like, it was 15 minutes before we were supposed to meet. He's like, I'm already here. And I'm like, oh my God, he's already there and I haven't left the house yet, you know? But that's great. Like, what a great first sign. Like, he showed interest, and it showed that he is very punctual and actually shows up on time even beforehand.
Yes.
But you know what? He's been that way always ever since. Like, that's just who he is.
Yes.
He showed up in his genuine self. Like, he will show up to things early all the time, or at least be there on time, but he's always that early person that wants to be there ahead of time. And that's just, in our marriage and all these years, that's how he's always been. So I got to see that. So that would be an example of an action. So it's like, look at those, it's those little things,
yes.
right? They say the devil's in the details, but it is like, it's looking for those like little actions that people do, and that's what you want to look for in your first date. It's those little things that actually mean something.
Absolutely. You know? And the consistency. You know, do you see consistency in their behavior, in what they say, and what they do? So that's also key.
Very true. Yeah, do the words, do the everything. Does it match?
Yes.
Does it match up? Because sometimes they'll, you know, we can have another show about the avoidant, the secure, the whole attachment theory. That's all fascinating stuff.
Yes.
But it's like, do they show up as they show that they are, you know, and that there's no facade there? Because there are people who will seem eager, like the first week or two.
Yes.
They're like texting you or calling or whatever.
Yes, being available.
Totally.
Yes.
And then it's like they dropped off the face of the earth, like week 3 or week 4. And then somehow you're like, wait a minute, I thought they were just so into me.
Yes.
And then suddenly they're like, you know, maybe the text stopped coming as much and all that. So we want to avoid the avoidance. We want to avoid the avoidance, okay? Those are not the right people for you. They're not the right for you, in the sense that if you're seeking a healthy, loving, intimate relationship with commitment, you know, you really want somebody who's stable and loving and like you said, consistent, right? And everything matches. So so that's a good piece of advice, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Showing up.
Yes.
They need to show up. Be consistent.
Yeah. And then another thing too, that when you're on that date, really be aware and present, because I think sometimes we go outside of our body. Maybe because we're excited, like, could he be the one? You know,
you're envisioning your wedding day,
right? You're
your
already
guest list.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be at the wedding? What song you're gonna dance
to? Exactly. So it's really important to remain grounded when you're there, because then when you remain grounded and present and confident, right? Like, you are in that space, then you're able to hear yourself, okay? And you're able to hear, right, your intuition. Like, does he make me feel good? Like, how does he make me feel, right? That's a big tip too, would you say, on the first date?
Absolutely. I've gone on first dates where when I left, I would feel so drained. My energy felt like it was sucked out of me, like an energy vampire, right? Because like your talkers, you know, when they're constantly talking about their sort of like their resumes, like their accomplishments, their dreams, their goals, their aspirations, but they just constantly just suck that energy where there's no reciprocation. And then your body is just like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired, I'm so drained from this date. And I found that another way of draining your energy is when you feel like you need to be somebody you're not. You're not being your most authentic self. Are you engaging in agreeing to things that you really don't agree with? Things that you don't really share common interest with? You know, so when you have to kind of like amp up your energy just to try to resonate and try to impress or try to, work harder than what is really natural for you, that's another indication that you should feel within your body is that, it's not in alignment.
Right.
It's forced, or it just takes a lot more work than it needs to. That's another indicator as well.
Yeah, and it shouldn't take that much work. When you meet that really right person that you vibe with and your energy just resonates and you kind of just flow. Yeah, again, it's that dance. Think of that first date as this dance. You're doing back and forth with this person, and there's just this flow, and you'll know when it's right because there's just this sense of ease between you two, and then you just feel like, wow, like when I met my husband, on our first date, it was just like, I don't know, it was just so easy, just this back and forth. I could be who I was. I even shared some of my needs. I was there was a few like, oh, this is what I'm looking for, that kind of thing. Again, not like telling my whole life story and vomiting it in front of him, but
emotional vomit.
Right. That's what I call it. But it's like, not doing that, but just, and in that there's just this sense of ease and this back and forth, and also look at too, going back to those actions, because I'm just remembering that first date right now. But with my son, he was very thoughtful too. It was so nice because Andy actually brought a couple of books. My son was interested at that time when he was younger in puppetry. Aww. Hopefully he doesn't kill me for saying that. But when he was younger, hey, puppets are cute.
Yeah.
So anyway, and Andy had an interest in that when he was younger. He actually had a children's television show back in the day in Iowa and stuff. And so anyway, he had these books and he ended up bringing them with him on the date, and at the end of the date he's like, oh, I have something for you or to give to your son. And I thought that was really nice, just a couple of books that he had, and I was like, wow, really thoughtful.
Very thoughtful,
and that's just who he is, and he continues to be that way, just a very thoughtful, loving, giving person. And so looking at those actions, and that, just me being present and grounded, like we were saying, in that moment, and being able to hear myself, our energy felt like it resonated, you know, and just feeling that, and not having to be, just like you were talking about, something that you're not, especially with all those energy vampires that are out there, you know, so we have to be careful of our energy, right?
Yes, absolutely. And not just that other person, not just you being present, but is that other person present as well?
Good point. Yes.
Right? Are they constantly checking their phone? Are they constantly talking to, while you're on your date, talking to the person next to them?
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden you're on a 3-wheel date and you're the third wheel.
And that wouldn't feel very good.
No. Yeah, so how present is that person with you, as well as you being present with that person?
Yeah. And there are, there's many different, red flags.
Yes.
Are there any other red flags that come to mind for you, other than the ones that we might have already mentioned? Is there anything else that you would say in regards to red flags?
When it comes to red flags, I think that it has to be most important, checking yourself. How are you feeling, and what are you going through mentally, emotionally, coming into the date? Right? So the red flag is, am I still hung up on somebody, right? From last week, from last month, right? And so that's an indication also that you look for in the other person. How are they, when they talk about their past experiences, do you recognize signs where it's like they're not ready to move on? Oh, I am still married, but we're separated at this time. You know, are they in a place where it's timing?
Yes.
Right?
I always say that divine timing.
Yes. Timing, are you in a good place? Are you open So you got to check yourself. Could you be the red flag?
Yeah, maybe you might be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And also, taking into consideration that other person, are they ready? Are they sound? Are they whole? And are they letting go of anything that may bring into this new relationship,
Yeah.
just issues or emotional traumas.
Exactly. Yeah, and Joy's not, we're not saying, you have to be whole and perfect.
No,
you
not
already,
whole and
actually, in
perfect.
truth, you already are whole and perfect, really, just as you are. That's the real truth. And it's the world that sometimes makes us feel that way, that either we're broken or something's wrong with us or whatever. I mean, we really are whole and perfect as we show up, but it's, when you go into a relationship, nobody's like, I guess, perfectly healed and all that, because love itself, when you're with the right person and when in a right relationship, it just feels good. And love itself between two people is very healing. That's really important, and it can be very healing when you're with the right person.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And you've said it so many times before that, we're all a work in progress.
Yeah, we are.
Right. We're not expected to be perfect, but, these subtle signs, they do bring into a relationship, if not dealt with, it could bring a very rocky start.
Yeah.
Right. Or it could make the relationship very strained.
Exactly. And then that's where that point goes to loving yourself,
Yes.
right? Like,
yes.
Because, you can sabotage the relationship because of maybe old patterns that you're, watch yourself. Are you exhibiting old patterns, old ways of being that really don't serve the relationship and then don't work? So, and that's part of keeping yourself in check. Right?
Yes.
Keeping your emotions in check, because sometimes we can be like, woo, 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 right? Up and down. But, if we can just stay focused and really just know and come from within that you love yourself and that you really, you're an amazing catch. Anybody would be so lucky to be with you.
Yes.
Having that true confidence, not in a place of like egotism or whatever, but just this humble confidence about yourself, and knowing like, I do deserve someone absolutely amazing, and I do deserve an amazing relationship. Why not me?
Yes.
It's like, why not, right? So a lot of people say, why me? But it's like, why not me? Right?
Yes.
To have that. And you can, so being present and being grounded is really, really important in that. And then also something I had learned, it's called a book called Attached by Amir Levine. That could be like another episode in itself. But one of the great things that I really learned, and actually I had read that book before I met my husband, so I do share it with clients, and I tell other friends, and I tell people how amazing that book, because to me, I wouldn't have met my husband without that book. But it was, when you show up on the date, the question you want to ask is not, how can I be what he needs?
Exactly.
It's, are you going to be what I need? And a lot of times we try to fit ourselves, like you were talking about before, like trying to amp up your energy or present yourself in such a way to match that person and whatever, but it doesn't really match, and and all that, and that's where it can get kind of dicey. So when you come at it from that angle and that perspective, like, are you going to be what I need? The way you're going to look at that person and perceive the whole first date situation changes. It totally changes. Your whole lens, your whole experience just changes.
So that is the point of being centered and balanced and grounded within yourself, so that you see, like, okay, does this person complement everything that I am? My energy, my essence, my needs, right?
Exactly.
So instead, it's really hard because we're trained to not be in a selfish mind frame, but it's not selfish. It's very self-loving, understanding what it is that you want, what your needs are, what feels good to you.
Exactly. And isn't that at the end of the day?
Yes,
right?
at the end of the day. Because if you are truly happy and feeling the love for yourself, you're only going to attract the same.
Exactly.
Law of attraction, it has to come together. You will attract that person that matches that vibrational energy with you. That love that you have for yourself, that person can love you for who you are.
Yeah. You know, exactly. And my mom actually once said to me, she goes, well, you got to meet all the wrong ones to meet the right one. And it's so true, because you have to recognize them too when they show up.
Yes.
You know, you might let go of somebody who could be really awesome for you. They could be the right one. So also being able to discern, recognize them when they show up in front of you, right? That's really important too. So I want to throw that in there, because knowing that. Because, we do go through a lot of wrong ones, too, sometimes.
So, you know what I found? I've been very hard on myself when I would go through kissing all the frogs, right? Before your prince.
Right.
So you get frustrated. You sometimes get worn down. You sometimes get bitter, resentful. All these negative energies. You know, we want to rid our bodies and ourselves of going into it by just knowing that we have some grace in learning, that, you know, all the experiences will serve us to just get that much closer to kissing the prince.
That's right.
Right?
Exactly. And we want to kiss a prince.
Yes. No more frogs.
No more frogs. No more frogs here. They're slimy and icky and, you know. But that grace is what she's talking about. Give ourselves grace. That's so important. And fail. I learned the word fail. First attempt in learning.
Yes.
Okay. So even if, you know, that date doesn't go, you know, and you went through somebody else who it just didn't, that's okay. You learn something from that. Take that and apply it, you know, and go, okay, you know, and remain open. I think that's one of the biggest things too on those first dates. Just remain open, because really anything is possible, and you never know, right?
Yes.
So just remaining open with that. So was there any last things you might want to say about dating or first dates? Oh, we're talking about first dates actually. So anything about first dates?
I can't think of any right now.
Okay. Well, that's okay. We had a good discussion about that. And I hope those tips and everything that we talked about and shared really helps you on your journey in the whole dating world and finding your prince.
Yes.
And one more thing. Actually, I do want to say this, because I just thought of it right now. Is also, if a person, guy, girl, whatever it is, sweeps you off of your feet, you don't want that. You don't want somebody to sweep you off of your feet, because we're using the prince analogy, right, on the show. Because when they sweep you off your feet, you're not grounded anymore, right? So you want to stay grounded. You want to stay present, because we don't want somebody to sweep us off our feet. Because when we get swept off of our feet, right, we lose sight of reality. And then that's when those red flags that were showing themselves all the way, we kind of ignore them or put them to the side or whatever. Do I think that you might want to give somebody a benefit of doubt here or there? Of course, you know, that's life. Nobody's perfect, but I mean, we are perfect spiritually, I guess.
Yes.
I just feel like I have to say that caveat for some reason. Sorry. But I mean, you know, so stay grounded again. Stay grounded, because you don't really want somebody to sweep you off your feet, because then you lose balance that way. So just keep steady, you know. And then I wanted Joy actually to share a little bit more, because she, as I said to you at the beginning, she's an energy healer, and she's also a crystal jewelry designer. And I kind of just wanted her to share with you the kind of work that she does as well. So Joy, can you share a little bit just about your energy healing and also that crystal work that you do? Because she makes these awesome bracelets. They're beautiful, these beautiful crystals. And I know she can make ones too for love or even protection, like on your first date. She can do that for you as well. So if you wanted to talk about maybe some of the crystals too for love as well.
Yes. Well, of course, every time I go on my date, I always put on my rose quartz.
Yes, the love stone.
The love stone. So that is my go-to for my dates every time. And so the energy work that I do, I actually incorporate crystals in it as well. So when I have my clients, I put it on their chakras. And so, of course, what I do is I measure which chakras are open and which chakras are closed or which are clogged.
Okay.
And so with the work that I do, I help to heal and cleanse what is deep within those emotional homes, you know, like in terms of your heart. When it comes to relationships, what I hope to do is to kind of get deeper into the meaning as to what are your fears?
Yeah.
You know, what are the hurts that need to be brought up and dealt with, and so that we can go into our next relationship or engage in all of our relationships with a clean and clear heart.
Yes.
Right. So with my work, I like to use crystals, and also with a connection with spirit, with God, with Buddha, with, you know, ascended masters, and also a little bit of shamanism. So I tend to get a lot of animal totems that give me messages that are applicable to the healing or the message behind what's needed for the healing.
That sounds beautiful. And her energy, as you can, I'm sure, feel it through the camera, through the video, she's just very sweet and kind and loving and gentle, and just has so much to offer and so much to give. So, and just it's a blessing, actually, just knowing her. So, a true angel on earth, a true angel on earth. And so, is there? So how do people reach you?
Oh, yes.
How can they find you?
On Instagram, you can find me joyful_ties. That's TIES. Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Instagram.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today for our soul to soul conversation. We will see you next time. Until next time, remember, you're the light, so let it shine.
Thank you.